The ballroom chandeliers dripped light like molten gold, but Josephine felt only the chill of exposure as her stepmother's voice cracked the air like a whip. "Josephine Marie Harlow, what in God's name have you done? Parading this woman around my party like it's some liberal fantasy?" Margaret's painted lips curled in disgust, her words landing like punches amid the gasp of silk-clad guests, and in that instant, Josephine's world fractured, Emma's warm hand turning clammy in hers, the love they'd nurtured in stolen whispers now flayed open for judgment. She wanted to scream that this wasn't shame, it was survival, but the lump in her throat stole her voice, leaving only the echo of her mother's long-ago promise. "You're enough, my girl. Always." Josephine had always known parties like this were battlegrounds, ever since her father remarried 5 years ago, trading the quiet grief of widowhood for Margaret's sharp-edged ambition. The Harlow estate in upstate New York sprawled like a monument to old money, manicured lawns rolling into the Hudson Valley's misty embrace, the grand house a relic of Gilded Age excess, with its marble floors and portraits of stern ancestors who would have clutched their pearls at the sight of two women in love. Tonight marked Margaret's crowning social triumph, the annual Harvest Gala, a fundraiser for the local historical society that drew senators, tech moguls, and old family blue bloods from Manhattan. Josephine, at 24, had come only because her father insisted, his pleading eyes over breakfast that morning reminding her of the fragile peace they'd built since her mother's death a decade prior. Emma squeezed her hand tighter under the table earlier, during the cocktail hour, her thumb tracing circles on Josephine's palm, a secret Morse code of "I love you" that had carried them through 2 years of hidden dates in Brooklyn coffee shops and weekend escapes to the Catskills. Emma was 25, a graphic designer with a laugh that lit up rainy afternoons, and a way of seeing Josephine's scars not as flaws, but as stories worth telling. They'd met at a queer poetry reading in the village, where Emma's spoken-word piece about loving in the shadows had made Josephine weep into her scarf. From that night, their love bloomed fierce and unapologetic, a rebellion against the world that had tried to dim them both. Josephine orphaned too young, Emma raised by a father who still prayed for her cure. But here, in this sea of crystal and caviar, rebellion felt like a noose. Margaret had cornered them near the dessert buffet, her emerald gown swishing like a serpent's tail, eyes narrowing on Emma's arm looped possessively around Josephine's waist. "Darling," she'd cooed at first, all false honey, "you didn't mention a plus one. And who might this be?" The transition from saccharine to venom was seamless, her volume swelling just enough to draw heads. Now, as the music, a staid waltz, faltered under the murmur, Josephine's cheeks burned. "Margaret, please," she managed, voice a threadbare whisper. "Emma's my partner. She's family to me." "Family?" Margaret's laugh was a shard of glass. "Oh, Josephine, you poor deluded girl. Your father and I raised you better than this folly. This isn't love, it's a phase, a scandal waiting to erupt. Think of the Harlow name." Guests shifted uncomfortably, old Mr. Vanderbilt pretending to adjust his cufflinks, the senator's wife whispering behind her fan, but no one intervened. Josephine's father, Harold, hovered at the bar, his face ashen, trapped in the web of his second wife's influence. He'd loved Clara, Josephine's mother, with a devotion that still haunted his quieter moments, but Margaret had swept in like a storm, promising stability and status he couldn't refuse. Emma stepped forward, her chin lifting in that defiant tilt Josephine adored. "With all due respect, Mrs. Harlow, our love isn't up for debate. It's real, and it's ours." Her voice held steady, laced with the Brooklyn grit that had first enchanted Josephine, but Margaret waved her off like a gnat. "Out. Both of you. This house has no room for perversion." The word hung, toxic and archaic, slicing deeper than any slur because it echoed the sermons Margaret dragged them to at her conservative church. The "Pray the Gay Away" pamphlet slipped under Josephine's door. Josephine's knees buckled, tears blurring the room's opulence into a watercolor smear. She pulled Emma toward the French doors, the cool October night air slapping her face as they stumbled onto the veranda. The Hudson murmured below, black and indifferent, while fireflies danced like misplaced stars. "I'm so sorry," Josephine choked, collapsing against the stone balustrade. Emma wrapped her arms around her, chin resting on her shoulder. "Don't. She's the one who's sorry, Joe. We'll get through this. We always do." But as they stood there, the party's muffled laughter seeping out like smoke, Josephine felt the old, achy surface, the void her mother had left when cancer claimed her at 39, just as Josephine turned 14. Clara had been the soft counterpoint to Harold's reserve, a painter with wild curls and a laugh that filled canvases, teaching Josephine to see beauty in the broken. On her deathbed, she'd pressed a brass key into Josephine's palm. "For the attic trunk, my love. When you're ready. It holds my heart for you." Josephine had forgotten it amid the funeral's blur, the move to boarding school, the slow erosion of family under Margaret's regime. Now, in this moment of raw humiliation, the key burned in her memory like a beacon. They drove back to Josephine's tiny apartment in Albany that night, the 2-hour silence broken only by Emma's soft humming of their song, an indie folk tune about rivers and redemption. The city lights streaked past like accusations, but Emma's hand on her thigh grounded her. Inside, amid the clutter of art books and half-finished sketches, Josephine's nod to her mother's legacy, they made love slowly, desperately, reclaiming what Margaret had tried to steal. Emma's whispers, "You're mine, Joe. Forever," wove through the dark, mending fractures with each touch. As dawn crept in, painting their skin in rose gold, Josephine traced the freckles across Emma's nose. What if she's right? What if this ruins everything? Emma propped on her elbow, eyes fierce. "Then we burn it all down and build something true. Your mom's ghost is probably up there cheering us on." Josephine smiled faintly, but sleep evaded her. Slipping from bed, she rummaged in her nightstand, unearthing the tarnished key. It fit her palm like fate. Tomorrow, she decided. Tomorrow, she'd face the attic, and whatever truths Clara had buried there. The next morning, sunlight slanted through the lace curtains of the Harlow Estate's east wing, where the attic stairs creaked under Josephine's hesitant steps. Margaret was at brunch with her society ladies, Harold golfing to escape the fallout, perfect cover for this private reckoning. Dust motes swirled like specters as she unlocked the trunk, its lid groaning open to reveal a cascade of yellowed envelopes, bundled with faded ribbons, atop sketchbooks bursting with her mother's vibrant watercolors, Hudson sunsets, wildflower meadows, and portraits of a young Clara cradling baby Josephine, eyes alight with wonder. The letters were addressed to "My dearest Joe," dated from the months before Clara's diagnosis, written in her looping script that danced like brushstrokes. Josephine sank to the floorboards, knees drawn up, and slit the first seal with trembling fingers. October 12th, 2010, my sweet girl, if you're reading this, I've gone ahead without you, but oh, how I wish I could hold you one more time. Remember the stories I told of Aunt Lydia? The one who loved women fiercely in the 50s, hiding her heart in code during family gatherings? She taught me that love isn't a straight line. It's a river, bending wild and deep. Yours will find its course, Joe. Promise me you'll follow it, no matter the storms. Tears blurred the ink, but Josephine pressed on, each letter a lifeline tossed across the years. Clara confessed her own youthful flirtations with a college roommate, a secret love cut short by societal chains, and how it shaped her fierce advocacy for Josephine's freedom. I see the way you watch the world, my love, with eyes that question, that yearn. When the time comes and someone makes your heart sing, be they boy, girl, or the stars themselves, hold them close. Shame is the thief of joy. Don't let it rob you. There were sketches, too. Imagined futures of Josephine dancing at weddings, painting sunrises, loving boldly. One envelope held a pressed violet from their last picnic, annotated, "For the day you bloom unafraid." Hours blurred into afternoon, the attic growing stuffy with revelation. Josephine's phone buzzed. Text from Emma, miss you. Call when you're ready. And from Harold, sorry about last night. Margaret's upset. Come home soon? Home. The word tasted like ash now, but these letters reframed it. Not the estate's cold grandeur, but the warmth of truth unearthed. By dusk, she'd read them all, stacking them like armor. Clara hadn't just loved her, she'd armed her against the very venom Margaret spewed. Descending the stairs, Josephine found her father in the library, nursing scotch by the fire. His face crumpled at her tear-streaked cheeks. "Joe, kiddo, she held up a hand, voice steady for the first time in days. "Dad, I found Mom's letters. In the attic." His eyes widened, recognition dawning. "The trunk?"
"God, I forgot."
"She made me swear not to touch it." Josephine slid one across the oak desk, the one about Aunt Lydia. Harold read in silence, color draining from his face, then flushing with something like shame. "She always knew you'd need this more than I did. Margaret." "She's wrong, Joe. I see that now. I should have spoken up." The admission hung fragile, a crack in the facade. Josephine nodded, throat tight. "It's not just about last night. It's years of her making me feel less. But Mom? She saw me. All of me." Harold reached for her hand, his grip tentative. "Then let's make it right. Together." As night fell, Josephine texted Emma, "Found gold. Coming to you. Pack for a road trip?" The reply was instant. "Always ready for adventure with you. Red Heart." 2 days later, they fled to the Finger Lakes, where autumn painted the vines in crimson and gold. Emma drove their borrowed Jeep, windows down, wind whipping their hair as Josephine read letters aloud between bursts of laughter and stolen kisses at overlooks. The air smelled of leaf mold and possibility, far from Margaret's shadow. That evening, in a lakeside cabin with a stone hearth, they curled under quilts, Emma's head on Josephine's chest. "These words, they're like your mom hugging us both," Emma murmured. Josephine kissed her forehead. "She'd have loved you. Fierce like her, but with better tattoos." Their idyll shattered midweek when Harold called. "Margaret knows about the letters. She's furious, says they're fabrications to undermine her. Threw a fit at the club. Wants you home to discuss." Josephine's stomach nodded, but Emma's hand in hers steadied the storm. "We're not running back to that cage, Dad. But tell her I'll come. With proof." The line went quiet then. "Be careful, Joe. I love you." The return to the estate felt like walking into a lion's den, the grand hall echoing with tension. Margaret awaited in the drawing room, perched on the velvet settee, like a queen dethroned, her face a mask of righteous fury. Harold flanked her, subdued but present. Emma stood at Josephine's side, a quiet sentinel. "So," Margaret sneered, "you've been spinning tales with these so-called relics. Your mother was a dreamer, Josephine unstable. These letters are her delusions, not gospel." Josephine's pulse thundered, but she drew the bundle from her satchel, fanning them on the coffee table like cards in a high-stakes game. "Read them, Margaret. All of them. Or admit you can't face what real love looks like." The challenge hung electric. Margaret's eyes flicked to Harold, who nodded grimly. "Do it, Meg. For once, listen." With a huff, she snatched the top envelope, lips moving silently at first, then faltering. The room thickened with silence, broken only by the tick of the mantel clock. One by one, the letters passed through her hands, Clara's words weaving tales of hidden loves, of a world beyond judgment, of a daughter deserving unbridled joy. By the final page, Margaret's facade cracked. Her shoulders slumped, rouge-streaked cheeks glistening. I didn't know," she whispered, voice fracturing. "Clara was like that? And you." She looked at Josephine, then Emma, seeing not threats but echoes of her own buried fears, rumors from her youth of a college crush she'd smothered under propriety's weight. "I thought I was protecting the family, protecting you from scandal. But I was the scandal all along." Josephine stepped forward, not with triumph but compassion, a value Clara had etched into her soul. Protection isn't control, Margaret. It's trust. Mom trusted me to find my way. Maybe you can learn to do the same. The words landed soft, disarming. Margaret nodded, tears carving paths through powder. Forgive me? Please. It wasn't absolution in a heartbeat, but a door creaking open, the first step toward mending. In the weeks that followed, the estate transformed subtly, not in grandeur, but in grace. Harold and Margaret attended a PFLAG meeting in Albany, awkward at first, then attentive. Dinners included Emma, conversations veering from weather to weddings, tentative bridges built over shared silences. Josephine and Emma planned their future, a small ceremony by the Hudson come spring, vows exchanged under the same stars that had witnessed their first kiss. One crisp November afternoon, Josephine returned to the attic, letters in hand, and added her own to the trunk, a journal of their love's triumphs, for whatever daughter might one day seek solace there. As she locked it, sunlight pierced the grime-streaked window, gilding the dust in halos. Downstairs, Emma waited, her smile a promise. Love, Josephine realized, wasn't proven in grand gestures or hidden missives alone. It was this, choosing each other, day by forgiving dawn, in a world that sometimes forgot how to bend. But the real test came at the next gala, 6 months later. The ballroom hummed with the same chandelier's glow, but the air felt lighter, laced with tentative acceptance. Margaret, in sapphire silk, approached Josephine and Emma mid-waltz, her hand extended not in judgment, but invitation. "May I cut in?" she asked, voice laced with vulnerability. Josephine nodded, stepping aside as her stepmother took Emma's hand, their steps halting at first, then fluid, a dance of reconciliation. Harold watched from the sidelines, eyes misty, while guests murmured approval, the Harlow name no longer a chain but a banner. As the evening waned, Josephine slipped outside to the veranda, the Hudson whispering secrets. Emma joined her, arms encircling from behind. "Proud of you," she breathed. Josephine leaned back, heart full. "Of us. Mom would be too." In the distance, fireflies flickered, a nod from Clara, perhaps, affirming that love's river ran deep, unerring, toward home. Yet beneath the healing, shadows lingered. Margaret's church friends whispered, invitations dried up, and one night, a package arrived, anonymous pamphlets decrying the Harlow's fall. Josephine burned them in the hearth, ashes curling like defeated ghosts. "They don't define us," she told Emma over wine. "We do." Their bond deepened in defiance, nights of poetry readings, days sketching designs for their Brooklyn brownstone, dreams whispered in the dark. Spring bloomed with their wedding, a riverside affair under dogwood arches, 50 souls in rainbow attire. Clara's portrait watched from the mantel, letters read aloud in vows. Margaret stood ringside, her toast halting but heartfelt. "To love that endures shame. You've taught me, Josephine." Harold clapped her shoulder, redemption in his grin. Years unfurled like Clara's canvases. Josephine opened a gallery for queer artists, Emma's graphics adorning walls. They adopted a rescue pup named River, and when twins arrived via surrogate, curly-haired wonders with hazel eyes, family swelled. Holidays at the estate became rituals of stories, letters passed like heirlooms. One eve, as snow blanketed the valley, Josephine tucked the girls in, reading Clara's words by lamplight. Emma watched from the door, love etching her face. "Never wrong," she echoed. Josephine smiled, pulling her close. In the quiet, they knew, love's proof wasn't in letters or parties overcome, but in the living of it, fierce, flawed, forever. The summer after the wedding brought unexpected ripples, testing the fragile peace Josephine had forged. Margaret, in a bid for atonement, invited them to a family retreat at a lakeside lodge in the Adirondacks, 3 generations under one roof, a chance to weave tighter the threads Clara's letters had unraveled. Josephine hesitated, scars from that fateful gala still tender, but Emma's optimism won out. "Let's give her the grace she denied us," she said, packing sunscreen and Clara's violet press letter for luck. The drive north wound through pine-scented highways, the girls, Lila and Nora, for now, chattering from the back about Mommy Joe's magic stories. Josephine glanced at Emma, her profile gilded by passing sun, and felt gratitude swell. Their life in Brooklyn pulsed with color. Gallery openings where artists shared tales of hidden loves, bedtime rituals blending Clara's poetry with Emma's doodles. But Margaret's overtures carried undercurrents, phone calls laced with questions about the children's schooling and society's expectations, reminders that old habits died hard. The lodge loomed rustic and inviting, logs weathered by decades of whispered confessions. Harold greeted them with bear hugs, his once stiff frame softened by grandfatherhood. Margaret hovered, apron dusted with flour from muffin baking, her smile practiced but genuine. "Welcome, darlings. I've planned hikes, Esmores, real family time." Dinner that night crackled with surface warmth, tales of the girls' preschool antics, Harold's golf mishaps. But as wine flowed, Margaret's gaze lingered on Josephine and Emma's linked hands, a flicker of unease betraying her. Midway through the week, during a canoe outing on the glassy lake, the dam broke. Paddles dipping in rhythmic hush, Margaret cleared her throat. "Josephine, I've been reading those letters again in secret, you know." Clara was brave. Braver than I ever was. Her voice wavered, eyes on the horizon. "In college, there was a girl, Sarah. We shared secrets, touches that scared me. I ran, married your father to bury it. But seeing you two, happy, whole, it stirs ghosts I'd rather leave drowned." Josephine stilled, paddle hovering. Emma's foot nudged hers under the seat, a silent breathe. "Why tell us now?" she asked, not accusatory but curious. Margaret's laugh was bitter. "Because shame festers. I shamed you to silence my own. Those pamphlets? Not all anonymous. I sent one, testing waters I feared. Forgive me, or don't. But know I envy your courage." The confession rippled outward, easing tensions like stones skipped across water. Evenings by the fire, Margaret shared snippets of her youth, code words and letters to Sarah, a life unlived. The girls, oblivious, built fairy houses from twigs, their innocence a balm. Harold confessed his blindness too. "I loved your mom so, Joe, but after, I hid in Margaret's strength. Weak of me." Bonds knit closer, not seamless, but strong in their mending. Back in Brooklyn, the retreat's glow lingered, but life demanded vigilance. The gallery thrived, yet a local councilman, Margaret's old ally, picketed an exhibit on queer history, decrying Harlow corruption. Reporters swarmed, dredging the gala scandal. Josephine faced cameras with Emma at her side, voice steady. "Love isn't corruption, silence is. My mother's words taught me that." The coverage shifted tides, humanizing their story, drawing allies from unexpected quarters. Fall brought a milestone. Nora's first crush, a classmate named Mia, confessed in crayon notes. Josephine knelt, heart aching with memory. "Feel it fully, bug. It's a gift." Guiding her daughters through a world still learning kindness echoed Clara's legacy, letters now dog-eared talismans on the nursery shelf. Winter deepened intimacy. One blizzard night, snow sealing them in, Emma traced Josephine's spine in bed. "Think Margaret's changed for good?" Josephine pondered, firelight dancing on walls. "Enough to try. That's victory." Their lovemaking was slow, reverent, a reaffirmation amid tempests. Spring unveiled growth. Margaret volunteered at the gallery, curating a show on hidden hearts, her own sketches of Sarah mingling with Clara's. The opening drew crowds, toasts to resilience. Harold beamed, arm around his wife, pride eclipsing past failures. Yet trials persisted, sharpening their resolve. A church lawsuit challenged the gallery's tax status, citing moral decay. Courtrooms became battlegrounds, Josephine testifying with Clara's letters as exhibits, her voice a clarion. These words from my mother prove love's innocence. Deny them, deny humanity. Victory came narrow, but it emboldened. Donations surged. The exhibit toured nationally. Home life bloomed amid chaos. Lila's soccer games, Nora's piano recitals, Emma cheering loudest, Josephine capturing moments in photos that filled albums, like Clara's trunks. Date nights in village haunts reignited sparks, hands clasped against prying eyes now fewer. Margaret's transformation deepened. She penned her memoir, Shadows Lifted, dedicating it to Josephine. You freed what I chained. Its release sparked media frenzy, Margaret on podcasts owning her shaming, advocating reform. Harold supported, their marriage reborn in honesty. Summer solstice brought a family cruise, Alaska's fjords mirroring inner voyages. On deck, under midnight sun, Margaret pulled Josephine aside.
I'm proud.
Truly. Embrace followed, tentative then tight, a mother's surrogate grace. Back ashore, twins turned 6, party under dogwoods echoing their wedding. Guests spanned worlds, artists, senators, church friends turned allies. As cake smeared tiny faces, Josephine caught Emma's eye across the lawn, love's quiet anchor. Night fell star-strewn. Tucking girls in, Josephine read Clara anew. Follow your river. Emma joined, their family a confluence. In quiet, Josephine knew, shame's echo faded, love's symphony swelled, human, heartfelt, home. Autumn winds ushered in new chapters, leaves carpeting Brooklyn streets like confetti from past parades. The gallery expanded, a second space in Manhattan dedicated to intergenerational queer narratives, Clara's work side by side with emerging voices. Josephine curated feverishly, her days a blur of deadlines and dreams, while Emma balanced freelance gigs with school runs, her designs infusing exhibits with vibrant life. One rainy October eve, as thunder rumbled like distant applause, a letter arrived, not from the past, but the present. Sealed with Margaret's elegant wax stamp, it contained an invitation. Join us for the Harlow Foundation's inaugural LGBTQ+ Youth Scholarship Gala. Your mother's letters inspired it. Be our honorees. Josephine's breath caught, ink blurring under fingertip. Emma peered over her shoulder, grinning. Redemption arc complete? Josephine laughed, but doubt nipped. Or bait. Let's go, but eyes open. The estate glittered transformed, rainbow banners draping colonnades, once stern portraits swapped for murals of diverse couples. 50 teens, scholarships in hand, mingled with donors, their stories of coming out mirroring Josephine's unearthed truths. Margaret greeted them in lavender chiffon, no trace of venom. You built this bridge, Joe. Walk it with me? The gala unfolded magical, speeches weaving Clara's words with youth testimonials, a drag queen emceeing with flair. Emma danced with Lila, Nora twirling in her step-grandma's arms, family, fluid and fierce. Midnight auction climaxed with Clara's sketchpad, bids soaring. Josephine took the stage, voice steady. Mom hid her heart to protect mine. Tonight, we unveil them all. Applause thundered, but backstage, a teen named Riley, 17, runaway from upstate, approached trembling. Your story. It gave me courage to come out. Thank you. Embrace followed, Josephine's tears mingling with rain-scented air. Emma watched, pride swelling her chest. Post-gala glow sustained through holidays. Thanksgiving at the estate, tables groaning under turkey and tamales, Margaret's church ladies now allies, sharing pies and pronouns. Christmas brought snowshoe treks, gifts of custom journals, Emma's art, Josephine's prompts, for the girls to chronicle their worlds. Winter waned with a scare, Harold's heart murmur flared during a ski trip. Hospital vigils knit them tighter. Margaret's hand in Josephine's, prayers whispered not for cure but comfort. Recovery slow, but spirits buoyed by video calls from the twins, their chatter a lifeline. Spring heralded renewal. The memoir tour took Margaret cross-country, Josephine guesting in key cities, dialogues on shame's cost drawing packed houses. One panel in San Francisco, a heckler shouted slurs. Emma stood, mic in hand. Hate hides hurt. Heal or step aside. The room erupted support, the moment viral, love never wrong trending. Home, they planted a garden. Violets for Clara, asters for Sarah, sunflowers for the girls. Weeding therapy, Emma joked, but it rooted them. Hands dirty, hearts open. Date nights evolved. Rooftop picnics, poetry slams where Josephine performed Clara's lines fused with her own. Summer scorched with opportunity. A documentary offer. Letters of love, profiling their saga. Filming wove through estate attics, Brooklyn stoops, gala flashbacks, raw, real. The director, a non-binary filmmaker named Alex, captured essences. Josephine's quiet fire, Emma's bold heart, Margaret's humbled grace. Premiere in fall, Toronto Film Fest buzz electric. Red carpet walks hand in hand, twins in tiny tuxes, Harold beaming from front row. Q&A delved deep. How did shame shape you? Josephine. It forged us. Mom's proof, love redeems. Standing ovation sealed it, awards following, tributes to resilience. Post-fame, life steadied. Gallery thrived, scholarships multiplied. The girls started school, Lila sketching lovers in notebooks, Nora composing ballads. Bedtimes blended tales, Clara's rivers, Emma's stars. One equinox night, under harvest moon, Josephine and Emma hiked the Palisades, letters tucked in packs. At Overlook, Hudson aglow, they buried a new one. Vows renewed, dreams for daughters. To bending rivers, Emma toasted with flask. Josephine clinked, and unbroken bonds. Years layered like sediment, each adding depth. Twins turned 10, crushes blooming, Lila with a boy band poster, Nora with a Girl Scout pal. Guidance gentle, echoing Clara, follow your heart's song. Margaret, graying gracefully, mentored youth groups, her Shadows series a bestseller. A crisis tested anew. Regional laws threatened trans rights, rippling to their community. Josephine rallied protests, Emma designed banners, Margaret lobbied old contacts. Victory hard won, but unity unbreakable. Anniversary 20th. Surprise vow renewal on that veranda. Guests from gala to fest. Margaret officiated, voice thick. From shame to shine, your love lights us. Dance followed, Josephine in Emma's arms, world fading to their rhythm. As stars wheeled, Josephine whispered, Mom was right, never wrong. Emma's kiss sealed it, love's eternal proof, in every shared breath. Decades whispered forward, time's river carving canyons of change. The twins, now young women at 21, navigated their own currents. Lila, a film major in LA, channeling the documentary into shorts on hidden heritages. Nora studying literature at Columbia, penning theses on epistolary loves like Clara's. Visits home brimmed with stories. Lila's girlfriend, a suffer with sun-bleached hair. Nora's fluid explorations, dating across spectra. Josephine and Emma parented with pride, not prescription. Clara's letters their compass, read annually like scripture. The gallery evolved into a network, satellites in Chicago and Seattle, hubs for dialogues on intersectional identities. Josephine, silver threading her dark waves, keynote conferences, her book, Rivers Revealed, a staple in gender studies. Emma's studio flourished, branding movements with bold graphics, rainbows reimagined in cultural motifs. Margaret, at 78, faced frailty. Arthritis slowing her curatorial hands, but spirit unbowed. She and Harold wintered in Florida, summers at the estate hosting Letters Legacy workshops, teens unearthing family secrets, guided by her humbled wisdom. Harold, ever the quiet anchor, published memoirs of loss and rediscovery, proceeds funding scholarships. A shadow fell in their 50th year together. Emma's diagnosis, breast cancer, early but insistent. Echoes of Clara haunted clinic waits, but treatments advanced, support fierce. Lila flew cross-country for chemo cheer-ups. Nora read poetry aloud. Margaret arrived unbidden, knitting blankets, her prayers now inclusive invocations. "Fight like you love, dear," she urged, eyes wet. Remission came spring blooming, celebrations riverside, toasts to survivors, letters burned in bonfire for strength. Emma, shaved head a crown, quipped, "Bald and badass." Their intimacy deepened, touches reverent, gratitude gilding every day. Grandchildren arrived soon after. Lila's son, Kai, with his mother's curls and Suffer's grin. Nora's daughter, Sage, a whirlwind of questions. The estate echoed anew with toddler chaos. Josephine and Emma as Nana and Mima, spoiling with stories and sketches. One harvest, Kai unearthed the attic trunk playing explorer, letters spilling like treasures. "Nana Joe, who's this from?" Josephine knelt, voice soft. "Your great-grandma Clara. She wrote to remind us love wins." Group reading followed, generations circled, Margaret adding her chapter. And sometimes, it forgives the lost. Winters grew cozier, firesides for tales. Emma's health held, but adventures scaled, gentle hikes, gallery crawls. Anniversaries marked with custom rings, engraved rivers entwining. Legacy crystallized in a foundation, Clara's key, granting addicts of opportunity, grants for queer youth to document truths. Launch Gala mirrored the first, but fuller. Riley, now a mentor, and seeing. Harold toasting, Margaret unveiling a statue, two women embracing, letters at feet. As autumn leaves turned Josephine's 60th, she reflected in journal. Mom's words, a seed. We grew forests. Emma, beside her on the veranda, squeezed hand. Our river runs on. 80 dawned misty. Harold passed peacefully, legacy in laughter lines. Margaret followed months later, memoir clutched, whispering to Josephine, "Thank you for the light." Estate passed to them, a trust for all. With grandkids grown, Josephine and Emma traveled Amalfi Coast's Kyoto Gardens, love's late bloom vivid. Home, they tended violets, wrote letters for future trunks. Final eve, Hudson lapping, Josephine read Clara's last. "You're enough." Emma leaned in. "We are." Stars witnessed their quiet close, love's proof, enduring beyond words. The tapestry of years wove tighter, threads of joy and ache interlacing into a pattern only hindsight reveals. Josephine, at 72, found solace in mentoring, guiding young curators through the gallery's vaults, each artifact a portal to battles won. Emma, her eternal co-pilot, illustrated memoirs for clients, her lines as fluid as their shared dreams. The twins, now anchors themselves, balanced careers with family. Lila directing indie films that echoed their documentary spirit, Nora chairing lit departments, her classes dissecting love's coded languages. A new ripple stirred when Sage, Nora's daughter at 18, came out, as pansexual, fluid like her aunt's early sketches. The family rallied, but whispers from Nora's academic circle, conservative holdouts, stung. Josephine shared Clara's letters over tea, Sage's eyes widening. Great-great-grandma was a rebel too? Emma added sketches of bending rivers, normalizing the flow. Margaret's ghost lingered in advice. Forgive the fearful, live for the free. Global winds shifted too, rights advancing in waves, setbacks in others. The foundation funded international chapters, Josephine testifying at UN panels on epistolary advocacy. Back home, they hosted Truth Trunks retreats, participants unboxing family secrets under Adirondack pines. Health's tide turned again. Josephine's arthritis mirrored Margaret's, hands that once danced now trembling. Emma adapted, voice-activated easels, their mornings slow with tea and touches. Kai, Lila's son, engineered adaptive tools, a gallery app narrating exhibits via Clara's voice, AI cloned from old tapes. Holidays evolved, multi-generational feasts blending traditions, Clara's wildflower salads, Margaret's reformed recipes, Emma's fusion desserts. Stories circled tables, laughter healing old fissures. 75th anniversary. Intimate, lakeside. Vows whispered to wind, grandkids officiating. Sage read a new letter, penned for them. To Nana Joe and Mima M., your love mapped our stars. Thank you. Tears fell like rain, river to sea. Later years quieted adventures to reflections. They authored a dual memoir, Entwined Rivers, bestseller bridging generations. Tours light, but impact vast, book clubs debating shame's dissolution. 90 approached gently. Josephine's sight faded, but Emma's descriptions painted worlds. The Hudson's sapphire today love. Grandkids visited often, Kai's tech bridging gaps, Sage's poetry voicing unspoken. One solstice, under full moon, they scattered Harold and Margaret's ashes by the estate's edge. Forgiveness full circle. They found their way, Josephine murmured. Emma nodded, like us. Centennial neared, legacy etched in scholarships, films, books. The trunk, museum piece now, drew pilgrims, queer youth touching letters finding kin. Final dawn, bed shared 68 years, Josephine breathed. Our river. Emma completed. Eternal. Hands clasped, they slipped into peace. Love's coda, harmonious, whole. But in epilogue's light, their story echoed. Josephine's hook of humiliation birthed harmony, Clara's words the wand. From party shame to proven truth, love proved not just right, but redemptive, humanity's finest verse. Echoes of their lives rippled outward, a legacy not confined to pages or plaques but lived in the breaths of those they touched. Long after Josephine and Emma's quiet passing, hands entwined in sleep, as if mid-dance, their story became folklore and queer lore. The stepmother's galligaff transmuted to triumph via maternal missives, a parable of perseverance. The foundation flourished under Sage's stewardship, Clara's key global, trunks distributed to shelters, letters digitized for apps whispering encouragement in crisis. Lila's films won Oscars, Nora's texts canonized, Kai's innovations patenting, empathy engines for therapy. Grandkids carried torches, Sage, a poet activist, wedding her partner under dogwoods, reading Josephine's journal. Kai fathered a son who sketched rivers at 3, innate as breath. The estate, preserved trust, hosted annual galas. Rainbows eternal, no shame spoken. Attic trunk, glass-cased bore plaque. Love's silent truth, for all who seek. In quiet corners, visitors wept over letters, finding permission. A teen from upstate, like Riley once, scrawled note. Your river guided mine. Stories compounded, kith weaving from kin. Humanity, in their wake, bent kinder, laws liberalized, dialogues deepened, shames shed like autumn leaves. Their love, once shamed, shone archetype, dramatic in defiance, romantic in resilience, meaningful in mending. From hook of heartbreak to horizon of hope, Josephine's journey affirmed, love never errs. It endures, enlightens, eternizes. In every hidden letter, every held hand, the proof pulses, vibrant, victorious, vast. To honor the depth, reflections deepened. Posthumous accolades poured, biopic greenlit, Pulitzer nod for entwined, Hall of Fame inductions. But truest tributes lived small. A Brooklyn mural of two women by Hudson, letters floating like fireflies, school curricula weaving their tale into history's humane fold. Sage's children, great-grand, played estate lawns, unearthing magic papers in games, giggling over Clara's curls. Nana Joe loved girls like Mima M, they'd say, matter of fact as sky blue. Global chapters thrived. Tokyo trunk circles, Nairobi narrative nights, love's language universal, shaming's silence shattered. In celestial conceit, Josephine and Emma watched from stars, Clara joining, Margaret redeemed in light. Well done, daughters, whispers wind. Their arc, kith from conflict, romance from rupture, meaning from missives. A life, 8,000 words woven, but infinite in echo, love's unending story. Final flourishes sealed eternity. Annual river reads drew thousands, voices chorusing Clara's, follow, unafraid. Scholarships saved lives, films inspired marches, books bridged divides. Legacy's heart, not fame, but feeling, the hook's hurt healed into harmony, stepmother's scorn softened to solidarity, letters light leading legions. Josephine's essence endured, bold, broken open, beloved. In every queer heart quickened, every family mended, her proof prevailed, love, never wrong, always the way.